Hi, this is just a brief video about some work I'm doing on this Kalkhoff bike, which I've taken a bit of a punt on buying second hand. It's got what's this NuVinci Harmony rear hub, which is a great idea. It's the sort of constantly variable hub arrangement. However, it doesn't work. Probably so hold on, if I so I can power up the bike to get that to come to life, which it does fine, but this the controller for the hub doesn't light up. I've tried all the electrical connections and everything, had it all apart, can't find anything wrong with those. I've managed to get a laptop talking to the hub through the little USB connector which is down here, but even so I can't get this system working, so I'm going to have a go at swapping it over to a manual type connector, which is what several of the forums seem to recommend. Okay, so that's the automatic shifter come off, and this is the manual shifter which I've purchased from Germany. So the splines on there are equivalent to the splines on here, so that should just fit straight onto the splines on the hub. The difficulty is going to be getting the orientation right, see all these degrees markers, so that the movement of the outer of this with the cables is going to get the right movement of the inside of the shifter. Okay, so getting the orientation of this thing relative to the different movements of the inside and the outside of the hub is a bit difficult, but I think I've done it. So what I've done is I've got the flats on this axle, so I'm imagining this down here is the ground at, at this end. It's the ground, and so I've got these flats set in an orientation that will let me get that tabbed washer down the guide in the frame, so it's on a slight angle below horizontal, and then when it arrives in the frame, that will mean this is parallel to the rear fork, the bottom part of the rear fork stay. And I've done that with this set on the splines in such a position that I've got half of my travel clockwise. There we go, it goes about 50 degrees, and I've got half of my travel anti-clockwise. So you've got to sort of keep, I've screwed it down now so it won't go wrong, but you've got to sort of keep lifting it on, lifting it off, turning it a bit round, and then dropping it back on this, turning this part while holding that part still, dropping it on the splines to get that 50-50. At first I was getting all the movement up at that end and none at this end. Now I've got it set for about 50-50, and I've screwed it down so it can't shift. Okay, so that's the back wheel back on with the orientation such that the tab lines up in the slot there. The shifter is pointing with both of these pointing in a straight line towards here, because that's where the cables are going to come from, and with the gear splines set at about the mid position. So that's a very straightforward replacement of the electrical shifter and its electrical connection with the mechanical shifter and its mechanical connections. You see that under here. Just a single screw, slide that one off, slide that one on, put that back. Okay, I want to get rid of all the electrical connectors, like to the handset and the one to the, what was the hub at the back. So to get to those, I'm taking out this part of the chain guard which required removing this little clip from down here, undoing these two Allen keys, and then that lets me lift that off just about, and then I can try and trace those wires through. So that's that back one coming to there. Seems to go to these three. So I should be able to just disconnect those. One, two. Yep, that should do it, and then I should be able to thread that back up out of the frame. I've taken this plug out here. That's the electrical for the thingy bob going through there, so I should be able to thread all those out and out of the way. Okay, whereas the electrical connections to the original NuVinci Harmony hub were quite bendy and flexible, now I've got to get to mechanical connections to gear cables from here somehow up to the mechanical controller, mechanical shifter up here. So what I'm going to plan to do is route them along the back of here where they'll be protected, and I've got to somehow get around all this stuff here, and then if I can, I would like to go into the frame here. I mean, I could just tie wrap them all along here, but it wouldn't look very good. If I can get into the frame here where the brake cable goes, come out where that one comes out at this junction here, if I can get the extra ones in through that connector, and then that would just give me a nice loop up to join the shifter here. To help me do that, I've taken off the guard that fits there, and I've drilled a couple of holes there and there, which I hope when that is bolted back down will give me somewhere so I can get from here to there. That'll then bring me out under the chain when it's bolted down, and let me run this across here, hopefully. The tightest one I think is going to be this one here, because that's quite a small connector and it's only made for one cable, but we'll have a look. Okay, well, I've really been struggling to try and thread this tube through this tiny hole here to come out at a hole there. There just seems to be, I think there's a lot of welding and stuff around here, so it's not a straightforward run. So I'm trying a technique that I've read about on the on YouTube, which if it works will be amazing. So I've just got some soft thread, which I've put the end of, can you see that? The end of in that hole. I've taped off other access points, so like around the motor and stuff like that for air. I'm going to try and use the hoover to suck that tiny thin thread through here, and then I can attach the thread and pull it through. Wish me luck. Okay, well, it didn't work the way that I planned, but going the other way, putting the thread in there and then putting the hoover on here, I managed to suck this little fella through. Wasn't easy. Hoover at full power, me sealing that up on there as best I could. But anyway, I've got a thread through, so hopefully I can thread the cables through, attach them to that. Okay, it's getting really tight at this junction point now. Keep trying the string technique again, but the string just keeps breaking when I come to try and bring it through here. So I'm going to try and go the other way. I've pulled some excess through on the one that I've got through. Now I'm going to try fastening this to that, pull the whole lot back up without going too far and taking this one out, and then fetching it out at the top. Wish me luck. Okay, so I've threaded the inner cables through from the manual shifter through the cable outers all the way to the back. I've now got to, I think I've got them the right way around, i.e. upwards and downwards, and now I've got to find a way of engaging the cable with the actual innards of the shifter there. So I've got two of these solderless nipples, they call them, so I should be able to clamp them on the cable, or maybe thread them first, drop them in to there, then tie them up, something like that. So in theory I've got the shifter at the front at half travel. I think I've got the splines on the thingy at half travel, so hopefully they will match up. But before I chop these off, I'll make sure that it is in the right place. And the good news is it works. So a little bit of twizzling here at the shifter end produces, I don't know if you can see that, reciprocal movement at the bottom end. And there was a bit of play in the system at first, so I had to tighten the cables a bit to get that out. But now I think I'm around about right in the middle as well. So it's worked, finally. What a job. A little bit of tidying up to do, sort out tying the cables in and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the result. A really difficult job, I would say. If I was saying manual, I'd probably rate it as 5 spanners. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope it might be helpful to somebody trying to do the same thing.